What if I told you that by the end of this video that you might actually start to look forward to your symptoms? I know that sounds crazy and horrible. Like, what is this person talking about? But I invite you to stick with me and just stay curious and keep a crack open in that door where you're just willing to look through and be like, what is she talking about? Maybe there's something here. Because what I'm about to walk you through in this video is something that countless people have used for recovery from conditions like ME/CFS and long COVID, and it's really powerful at eliminating symptoms. Okay, so what I'm going to walk you through right now is something called somatic tracking, and I imagine you've probably heard about this by now and might even have some sense of how to do it or have tried it. It's taught different ways by different people. What I'm going to share with you right now is the approach used by Alan Gordon. He is leading the way in cutting edge science around brain retraining and nervous system regulation with these sorts of conditions. And this specific somatic tracking approach is part of the pain reprocessing therapy that he uses with all of his clients and has studies to back the efficacy of it. And the great news is, he's the founder and the director of the Pain Psychology Center here in California, in LA, but you don't have to fly to LA and go to some fancy center and pay lots of money. I don't know how much they charge, but you don't have to pay and be at one of these clinics to do this therapy. This is something that you can do at home and for free. And I'm going to walk you through the exact approach that is used with the patients at this clinic right now. So right now I'm going to walk you through three things. The first is when to do and when not to do somatic tracking, because it isn't appropriate all of the time. The second thing is step by step. How do you do this version of somatic tracking yourself from home? And then third, how often should you do it and for how long? And spoiler alert, the answer to those last questions probably isn't what you're thinking. Before we dive in, if understanding how brain retraining and nervous system regulation ties into recovery from conditions like ME/CFS and long COVID is new to you, if this area of neuroscience is new to you, it's important to at least have a foundational understanding of what is happening here. And if this is something that you'd like to learn more about, I have a completely free 5-day brain retraining course, and you can join with the link in this video's description, and I'll also pin it in one of the comments right below this video. But for now, to put it very simply, just know that if you're new to this, symptoms all have a purpose. They are tools of our brain and our nervous system that are used as warning signals. They alert us to danger, to some sort of harm. Our brain and nervous system, one of their primary things they're trying to do is to keep us alive. And they're constantly making assessments. And when they see anything wrong, it's to alert you that, your leg is broken. Stop walking on it. I'm going to give you a bunch of pain so that you don't walk on it, so that you rest and it heals. Or if you're eating something poisonous, I'm going to send you some nausea feelings so you'll know to stop eating that poisonous or rotten food, and so forth. But there's all sorts of other assessments that are happening, whether it be miscommunications between the brain and the body. Sometimes they get it wrong and they detect or they determine something is dangerous when it's really not. And then they send off those alarms in the form of symptoms. It could be all sorts of things. Our brain and nervous system react to emotional trauma and stress and threats in the exact same way, the exact same processes, the exact same circuits in the brain as they do to physical threats. So this could be scary emotions that you feel like it's not safe to feel, like rage or shame, or maybe some trauma you're carrying around from your past that you're pushing down and you're not wanting to deal with. So it can be all sorts of things. And what it all comes down to is that some sort of threat assessment triggered these symptoms, whether emotional or physical. And then fear is the fuel for the continuation of these symptoms. Ultimately, or specifically, it's a certain type of fear that fuels these symptoms. And it's fear of the symptoms themselves. As we see the symptoms, we get scared, understandably, we get more afraid, and this just reinforces for our nervous system that yes, something is wrong, something is very wrong, keep sending the symptoms, we are not okay. So we have to turn off that fear, and we do that by facing it. And right now, I'm going to walk you through a really powerful way to do that. All right, first, so when is the best and the worst time to do somatic tracking? So, somatic tracking is what they call a corrective experience. So, meaning when we do it, we're trying to make corrections in the brain and the nervous system. We're trying to rewire things towards safety. And we need to be able to diffuse the fear in order to do that. And when symptoms are severe, this is not the time to try and do that because understandably, you are suffering. You're in such a state, you might be a bit panicked, stressed out, and it's just not realistic that you can get yourself into a calm place and just be a neutral observer to what's going on when there's so many alarm bells going off in your body in that moment. There are strategies for in those moments that you can do as well, but it's mostly about just doing what you need to get through it. Whatever feels good to you. And if you can, just send yourself messages of safety and that despite feeling terrible, everything is okay. And once those symptoms ease up a bit and they're more in the mild or moderate range, or perhaps for you, this is the range that they've always been in, then this is a good time to do somatic tracking because we need this to be a corrective experience. We need to face that fear and diffuse it. And this is something that we can more realistically do when symptoms are mild or moderate. And we diffuse the fear by facing it, and we face it with tools like somatic tracking. And then once that fear dissipates, then the symptoms go away because without the fear, we've determined there's no danger, and those alarm bells in the form of symptoms are no longer needed. So let's look at how to do somatic tracking step by step. And this is all about depriving symptoms of their fuel source, which is fear. So this means we use this as a tool to respond to symptoms in a more neutral way. So when symptoms come up, instead of panicking, instead of, oh my goodness, what's happening? Is something wrong in my body? Am I getting worse? Am I never going to get better? You just sort of stop yourself, just gently like, okay, symptoms are here. Let's just take a look at them. Let's just be curious. Where are they in my body? Like, I know they're not hurting me, even though it's unpleasant, it's uncomfortable. I don't want them to be here, but what are they doing? Like, are they moving around? What does it feel like? Does it have a tingling sensation? Is it in multiple parts of your body? And when you look at it, does it change shape? Does it have a color? Like, what do you see when you're looking at it? And one of the ways to think about this that Alan Gordon shares that I absolutely love is sort of like picturing you're underwater and all your symptoms are just the fish around you, and you're just sitting there in the water. Maybe you're a turtle, and you're just floating around. And you're like, oh, look at that one coming by. Ooh, it just sort of like puffed up and then got small again. That's really interesting. Okay, now it's floating off. Oh, there's a new one coming in. Oh, and one over there that is exactly the same. I'm seeing on both sides two of the same symptoms. What are they doing? And it's just about having this lightness with it and even having a bit of fun with it. Like maybe you're this sea turtle and you're talking out loud to them. Like now you're this talking sea turtle. And like, what is happening? But it's about diffusing all of that fear and all of that stress around symptoms and just being an observer, reminding yourself that they're not hurting you and being curious about them in that moment. Just like, let's just check it out. Another important thing with this process is to know that when you're doing this somatic tracking and watching your symptoms like little fish floating by, that you're not trying to get rid of the symptoms in that moment. Of course, this is a long-term goal, but right now that is not where your focus is at all. You're not trying to shoo the fish away or make them disappear. You're just watching them and you're just reminding yourself that you're okay, that your body isn't broken. There's no damage happening in your body from these symptoms. This is just your brain sort of putting on a show for you, but everything is okay. A really great example of this is with our puppy, Chloe. So when we got our second dog, she was very young and I found a book on dog brain retraining because I get the power of it. So of course I wanted to see what I could do with her. It's called Puppy Brain. It's excellent. And it teaches you how to really shape those neural pathways in the most beneficial way as they're developing as puppies, because this one is when those connections are happening the fastest. And one of the things we did this with was she used to freak out when she saw any new object on the floor, really anywhere, but especially on the floor, because that was kind of her zone. So it could even just be like a shoe was in a new place or a pillow moved to a new place. She would bark at it and freak out like it was an intruder come to kill us all. And she just wanted to make sure everyone was aware, and she wouldn't stop, losing her mind over the shoe that had moved to a new spot in the front entrance. So we did a lot of work with her to help her see that it was safe and okay. And we made it fun and playful. And we'd sprinkle like treats around the shoe and get her to go up to it and see that there was no danger. And all of a sudden, because every time an object moved or appeared, there were treats around it, it became fun and a good thing. And she was excited when there was new stuff around. And now it's so amazing to see that she goes around our apartment. This is her new norm. This is her new wiring in her brain, with this curiosity and this lightness with everything that she encounters. And she'll just check out everything. She'll go up and if I drop a hat on the floor, before would have terrified her and all her alarms would have been going off. But now she's like, oh, what's this? Is there a string on it? Like, what does it smell like? Can I chew on it? Will it be my friend? And she's like that with everything in our apartment, just very curious and not threatened, and has rewired those things in her brain that were really faulty wiring. And her brain was doing its best, but it was assessing things like shoes and hats as threats when really they were fine. Try and treat your symptoms, like these things in my apartment, just innocuous, not harmful things. They're there, they're not hurting you. You're just kind of curious about them. How did this show up? What is that? What color is it? What shape is it? Is it moving? Is it changing size? And just have that lightness and curiosity. So I'm giving you some mixed things to picture here, but whatever sticks for you, whether you're that talking sea turtle, looking at the fish, or you're just, my little pup Chloe, just prancing around, looking at everything, knowing that it's safe, that none of these things are threats, or something else entirely that fits for you. Just whatever helps you to envision this and take away the stress and the seriousness of it and add some lightness to it, and is something that you can visualize just to help you have that more neutral reaction to symptoms, to diffuse them so that they can eventually go away. All right, last thing. How long should your somatic tracking sessions be, and how often should you do them? So here's the great thing. This isn't something that you should be putting a lot of pressure on yourself about. This isn't something that you should turn into somatic tracking boot camp and you need to do it hundreds of times a day or a week. This is something that you should just do little bits of here and there. And if it starts feeling like a chore, if it starts stressing you out, then it's time to stop. And like most things, just start out small. This might be for a few seconds or a minute or two, and then slowly build up. And over time, it will be easier to do longer sessions. But like everything, it's important to just customize it and personalize it for what feels right for you. Because for some people, sitting and doing a 5 or 10 minute session is going to be a really comfortable thing, something they enjoy, something they find helpful. And for other people, it's just going to be a few seconds here or there where they just sort of check in and reset themselves and then move on. So it really is about what works best for you. And for many people facing these conditions, somatic tracking can become, if you're using it not in the intended way, just another way of being fixated on your symptoms and worrying all of the time. And you can get stuck in a place of either analyzing your symptoms that you have or waiting and obsessing about when they're going to come. So this isn't a space that you want to get trapped in. I know most of us want, some sort of rigid structure, or at a minimum, some really concrete instructions on how to do this. Do it 3 times a day at this time of day for 3.5 minutes each time. But it really doesn't work that way. Ultimately, as you probably hear me say a lot, one of the best things you can do, as backed or as said by Alan Gordon and backed by science, is to really, as much as possible, shift your focus off trying to recover, off trying to get better, stop fixating on symptoms, on trying to find a solution, on researching, recovery strategies, of being so focused on recovery, and shift that to just living, to finding little pockets of joy, to smiling, to finding pleasure, because this is the fastest way to put your nervous system at ease and tell it that everything is okay. And then throughout the day, just snatch little moments here and there to do some somatic tracking whenever it feels good and whenever it feels like it might be a beneficial thing for you to do. And as you're shifting your focus to just enjoying your days more, on living again, on finding things that make you happy, start to focus on positive sensations in your body, because understandably, you've likely become quite fixated on the negative sensations in your body, all the symptoms, all the things that don't feel well. So as you go about your day, start to notice things like the feel of the sun on your skin, or a warm breeze on your face, or a comfortable blanket that's with you on the couch or in your bed. Just anything that is positive. And then you start to rewire your brain for positivity, for looking for good, which also puts your nervous system in a really good state. If you enjoyed this video, then you might also like this other one I'll link here. It is called The Golden Rule of CFS Recovery, and it is where I break down what causes these conditions, what keeps you stuck in them, and then how to get past them, all in one sentence. It really is a simple process when you understand it. Not easy, but it is simple. And once you really understand those core concepts, it helps to propel your recovery forward so much more quickly. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in this next video.